Hey, how's it going, captains? Admiral Hattori here, and welcome aboard for another World of Warships video on my channel. In today's video, I am going to take a look at the Tier 7 Premium American battleship, the USS California, a Tennessee-class battleship. She's currently the first American standard type battleship in the game, with the post-Pearl Harbor refit to the hull. As you might have noticed, she is a lot thicker than your usual American standard type. She's actually thicker than the Iowa class battleship. Her superstructure got reworked, and with that thickness, she got a lot more Bofors and Oerlikons equipped on the ship. Any empty spawner ship is fitted with anti-air, and her secondaries, or dual-purpose guns, are different than your casemates that you find on the standard types like the New Mexico or Colorado. Instead, she has the secondaries that you find on the modern American battleship types like the North Carolina class or the South Dakota class. And of course, what differentiates her from the competitor, which is the Colorado, is that she is equipped with New Mexico guns. So 3 356mm gun turrets, so triple gun turrets, and each of them have 3 of them, making up to 12 since there's 4 turrets, so 12 356mm guns. In theory, this is a heavier broadside than the Colorado, but these are smaller guns, which means that if you want to score that heavy broadside, you have to hit your target. She is slow, since she is a standard type American battleship, and ultimately, she crashed at launch, dead on arrival. Word already gotten out that this ship was not an effective ship. I can't really say that you can't do well with this ship. I had games where I actually did very well with the California. It's fun to play the California when you get the right games. Generally, it's not going to be the case. She definitely struggles at high tier matchmaking. Part of the reason is, yeah, it's high tier ships, so tier 9 ships, they're gonna bully these tier 7 ships, but ultimately, it's the maps. The maps are big, which means that having a slow ship like the California, it's going to be an issue. Now, I know that most of people's reviews or opinions, they've been focusing for the duration of their review about the speed on the ship. And I have no problem with the speed, because this is just inherently what the ship is. I mean, you can't change the fact that the standard types are going to be sailing at 20 knots or 21 knots at max. But then again, the California is even slower than the Colorado. When this ship turns to the port or starboard, any rudder, she's going to bleed a lot of speed. So in the case of the Colorado, when you turn your rudder fully, you might drop down from 20 knots to 17 or 18 knots. I don't know the exact numbers, but let's just say that. In the case of the California, you're going at 20 knots, you turn, you're gonna drop to like 15 knots or 14 knots. And I guess it just comes down to the physics of the ship, since the ship is a lot thicker. So speed was not an issue with me, because you just have to play this battleship different than the other battleships that you see, like the Scharnhorst, which utilize that speed. In the case of the standard types, you have to commit to a side that you know you're going to be fighting, and not just sail to the C flag or A flag without any intelligence. That is the worst way to play the American standard type, which is part of the reason why a lot of people don't like the American standard type, because they just find games where they don't do anything just to die and be the last guy alive. So I'm not going to hammer on the speed. What I'm going to hammer is, I don't understand what Wargaming did to this ship. California was a ship that I followed development since its announcement a year ago. And normally when they announce a ship, well, I don't know how the development process takes. It seems to be random nowadays, but usually they announce a ship, it goes into the super tester, then community contributors, and this whole thing happens around on a really quick release, 4 months. On an average release, I would say 5 to 6. This ship took a year. When it was announced, it was tested for like 2 to 3 months, and then Wargaming shelved this ship. Now, near the end of that testing phase, which is like, what, 8 months of just being dead, no words about it, when the comings of the 4th of July holiday, they brought it back, they changed the ship quite a bit, and it's just not the ship that I expect the ship to be. So I was hoping that they would capitalize on the California being, you know, this modern type for the standard type battleship, right? Because it's a completely different hull. The California hull is running off the Colorado. Actually, the Colorado has the exact same hull design as the Tennessee class. So in the case of the California, the reason why the Colorado class even exists is because with the remaining tonnage by the U.S. Navy that was given with the restriction from the London and Washington Treaty, was that, hey, they were going to build 2 more Tennessee class battleship, but then they created the Colorado class because the sneaky Japanese, they built a battleship that was equipped with 410mm guns, or 16 some point inch guns. And the Americans were just not having it, since America always want the biggest guns. And at the end of the war, the Japanese still managed to have the biggest guns for a battleship. So that is how the Colorado class came about. They just took a Tennessee class hull and stuck 8 406mm guns on the ship. So keep that in mind, because that's going to be very important when I'm going to start talking about what was going to do Wargaming's mind. So the hull of the ship. This is a Colorado hull, but it's upgraded, as you might notice. She has thicker torpedo bulges. In theory, when this ship is upgraded, it's almost as if the Colorado maximum hull, which is hull B right now, right? There used to be, way back in the day, there used to be hull A, B, and C. If anyone remembers the Fuso, the hull A Fuso is like World War I looking Fuso. The hull B and C is World War II, where they changed the superstructure, they upgrade the armor, and it has a pagoda mast. It's a completely different ship. With the refits, the US Navy almost wanted to consider these ships as a separate class, so it was that much of an improvement. But at the end of the day, they are still a Tennessee class battleship. Now, what do I have an issue here? For some reason, Colorado, being a inferior hull compared to this California hull, has 1,000 more HP, maximum HP. I know it's just 1,000, you basically slap on Survivability Expert on the California and you have, what, more HP than the Colorado. But the problem here I have is that, why doesn't the California have more HP than the Colorado, even though the California is a more advanced hull? It blows my mind. The Colorado has slightly better torpedo protection. Yeah, I'm going to run these numbers off the top of my head if I remember correctly. Colorado's torpedo damage reduction is 37%. California, on the other hand, is 35%. The whole purpose of the refit was to increase the torpedo protection and more anti-air, because the US Navy learned it the hard way at Pearl Harbor. They hated the Japanese torpedo bombers. They hated planes. And for some reason, this final form, this modernized hull, has less HP and a weaker torpedo protection, albeit by 2%, but it still bothers me. I don't understand why it's weaker. And I had the highest expectation that the California would have a torpedo protection like the Massachusetts or Alabama, which they sit at 56% damage reduction. It just makes more sense, especially when you're talking about the California, because this is a slow ship, even slower than the Colorado. So it would make sense that destroyers would bully the ship with torpedoes, and you should add better torpedo protection to go with that sense, right? That point. It has better torpedo protection historically. That's the whole purpose of the design. I just don't understand. So you would think that, okay, so weaker torpedo protection, weaker health pool, does it stop there? No. For some reason, Colorado, on her repair party, her heal, every second when you heal, she heals 120 HP per second more than the California. And let me remind you, the Tennessee class hull is the same thing as the Colorado class hull. The design is the same. I don't know why. This ship defense, the hull upgrade here, is actually weaker than the Colorado hull. Just strictly speaking, the armor, torpedo protection, the health pool. Okay, armor-wise, she does have, what, 32 millimeters, 31 millimeters on the torpedo bulge that will help you against, like, Bismarck guns, but still, it's the health pool, the repair party, and the torpedo protection made no sense on a ship that is extremely vulnerable because it's slow. Now, there's definitely one upgrade I can talk about, and that is the California's Citadel is lower than the Colorado. It's actually the lowest Citadel that I've seen for a battleship in the game at the moment. If you're selling full broadside close range without turning, of course, if you turn, you're going to show the underside of the ship under the waterline. But yeah, the Citadel is located a lot deeper than other American battleship. It's pretty much impossible to Citadel the ship unless you're at a certain distance with a weird angle of how the shell somehow managed to land into the Citadel of the California. But even though her Citadel is lowered than usual and is almost impossible to Citadel, she's going to take a lot more damage than the Colorado because she's thicker, so there are more areas to hit on the ship, especially when you're getting farmed by cruisers with HE. And battleship AP, they're more likely to get full penetration on the ship, just like German battleships. They're very wide, so you get full penetration. So at the end of the day, the Colorado, it just has a far superior hull when it comes to survivability. Now, the upside, I guess, is the Citadel, which is the one I said, being lower than almost impossible Citadel. The other thing is that she has great concealment. Her concealment is 11.8 kilometers with concealment expert on your captain, whereas the Colorado is around 14 kilometers. So basically, California has, I think, one of the best, if not the best, concealment at this tier. It's probably rival with the King George V, but I don't recall that concealment value for that ship. But it basically has that concealment upgrade baked into the hull, in the Colorado hull. So yeah, concealment is top notch. So she's all about getting the broadside and just suddenly appear with that particular firepower. But then again, your ship is slow, so you're not gonna be able to ambush people. You just disappear, hope that they just pretend that you weren't going to shoot at them, and then you shoot at them. That's the whole idea of the California. So there goes the concealment, and obviously the anti-air. The anti-air is tier 8 levels of anti-air. It can be compared to the North Carolina. Now the guns. Since this ship is slow, I was hoping that Colorado, big guns, accurate, they can do a lot of damage per hit, as you expect, and they can overmatch tier 7 battleship armor generally. I mean, wherever you hit on the deck or the bow or stern, you're going to get full penetration.
The enemy is about to win.
California, okay, California cannot match the Colorado's firepower in terms of, angling, because any ship at this tier can just angle and negate that firepower. A tier 6 battleship will just make it 0 damage. I mean, you can only best damage you can get if a tier 6 battleship angles is just the superstructure. So to me, it was that logically they should make these guns very accurate, and then when someone shows broadside, you can just paddle them, or at least give it the feel of playing the Montana at tier 7. The guns are inconsistent, and I say that because sometimes I get crazy salvos where they are very accurate, and other times they just straddle horribly. You have 12 guns, a battleship's at 7 kilometers away, and somehow I managed 3 to 4 hits at times. Kind of baffles me. It usually should be at least 6 or 7 at 8 kilometers, but these guns are shotgun at times, and other times they just land like sniper rifles. So very inconsistent. Now, I would not have a problem with the gun's accuracy if she had a quick reload time, a short reload time. And that isn't the case. She has a 34.2 second reload base. So without adrenaline rush, just 34 seconds. Still has the New Mexico and Arizona feel to the reload. So it takes forever to reload. Your guns are unreliable, and that's the California's guns in a nutshell. When you face tier 8 to tier 9 battleships at 10 to 13 kilometers, your AP shells tend to drop off quite a bit. The damage drops a lot, especially 15 kilometers against like a fewer day grosser. So you might score 7 perfect hits, full penetration, but they're just not gonna do that much damage. And right there, I got 3 full penetration on that Colorado, and it's not a lot. I mean, 8,000 did take quite a chunk on the Colorado, but I was like, expecting a lot more. So, I mean, yeah, she can definitely bully tier 5 battleships, but we're talking about a California, what, 5th year into World of Warships, so most people are going to be playing at tier 8, tier 9, so most of your matchmaking is going to be at that tier, and your guns are just not going to cut it. And the turret traverse speed is slower than the Colorado. So, you have to switch in between HE and AP, and as you might notice, I have Hulsley, which has the special captain skill for switching ammo types a lot quicker than a standard captain. When I get into a game where I'm top tier, I usually stick to AP, but when I'm bottom tier or I average around tier 7 and 8, I would alternate between HE and AP a lot, almost as if you're playing a Royal Navy battleship. Which I play in between AP and HE. Some people just stick to the HE, but that's them. For me, I try to switch and adapt to the shell types. And yeah, that's California. So it's yeah, a lot of word got out, and you probably asked, why did I get the California? And the answer is simple. I am a fan of the American standard types, and this being the first modernized hull, I thought she was one of the coolest looking battleship in the game. But ultimately, the California is the first World War II battleship, or maybe a warship in general, that I have ever seen in my life. This is going back to my childhood when I played a game called Medal of Honor Rising Sun. And it's about the Pacific Theater. After most World War II games are based off the European front, but it was fighting the Japanese, and you open up the level with the attack on Pearl Harbor, and you guessed it, I was aboard the California shooting down Nakajimas and Zeros with my BAR, the Browning automatic rifle. I mean, if the Americans were able to shoot down Japanese Zeros with the BAR, then the Japanese would have got folded on like in 2 months in World War II, because yeah, that game was not designed to be realistic. But hey, why do I care? I want to play a World War II game at the time when I was little and when I had fun. And the California was really the first battleship that I witnessed. Now, of course, I don't think I recognized the California at the time. I think I recognized the Arizona more, since there was a sequence in the game that relates to the Pearl Harbor movie where the Arizona bow gets blown off because of a magazine detonation. So, California, the only people who buy it is you gotta have personal reasons like me. People who are crazy about the US and battleships, just generally a fan and wouldn't mind dropping cash on the ship, even though it's an alright ship and okay at times. But there are a few people out there who are saying that they love the California, and yeah, that's great. Have some pride in the ship that you play, because there are ships out there that I play, even though I know that they aren't great, and I guess the California is one of the ships. I do really hope that Wargaming decide to change and make the California a better ship, just like what they did to like the Izumo, where the Izumo lifespan, it progressively got better. But California is a very rare ship to see at tier 7, even though it's available in the premium shop at all times. Just not a well-received ship. Poor correlation for the testing with Wargaming and the community contributor and super testers. They even voiced their opinion, saying that this ship could have been better, but Wargaming got their eyes on the 4th of July weekend, or week, I don't recall the day, but 4th of July holiday, and what matters to them was selling this ship right away without making any final decisions on these changes. So aside from that, I hope you guys enjoy my review that I'm just not fond of, and I'll see you guys next time on World of Warships.